Hello friends and welcome to another video lesson from DBOS Talks. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. This video is in the playlist called Handling Dates in SQL, and we'll be learning about the round date function. Okay, the round function for dates. As you probably know, there's a round function which is used for rounding off or rounding up, rounding down, rounding off numbers. But in this video, we'll be talking about the round function, which is specifically for date kind of values, values with date data type. All right. Okay, so the syntax for the round function is like this. So if you're familiar with the conventions on syntax and such, so you would know that the bracket, some would call this square bracket. The bracket means it's optional. So round can accept at least one parameter, which is the date value. And optionally, it can accept a second parameter, which is the format, okay, which you will see in subsequent examples we will be looking at. All right, so it must have at least one parameter, which is the date value, which should be rounded off. But otherwise, you have the option to add a second parameter, which is for the date format. All right. If this format is omitted, if you will only use the round function in this manner with one parameter with the date value inside here, it's either a hard-coded value or a column name, then that will be interpreted or be understood as to be the date, meaning DD. Okay, you will see it. Okay, anyway, okay. So the first, there are several ways of using the format. There are several kinds of format that are used, so we will not be covering everything so that you do not get overwhelmed. So we will be touching on at least three of them, okay? The DD, the MM, and the YYYY, all right? So the DD, which is like this, will round off the date value to the nearest day, okay? So if you can go deeper into that, then the rule is that if the time is before noon, then it will be rounded off to the previous day. As you know, a date has a time element sometimes. Okay, and if the time is before noon, I mean after noon, it rounds off to the next day. All right, so let's just look at the round function. Again, the round function, we're focusing on the date function of SQL called round. And I will be putting in here two columns side by side so you can see. I will be working on the Oracle's dual table, which is just a dummy table when you are trying to do, you're using a select statement without necessarily getting data from a particular table, then you would use the dual table. So I'll be displaying the sysdate, system date, which is today's date, alongside derived column, which is making use of the round function. So round, here's the syntax in here. So we are using two parameters, although like I said, it must accept at least one parameter. But optionally, you can specify a format. In this case, the format, which is always in a string form, is DD, which is the date value of a date in numeric, which is from DD is referring to the numeric value 01 up to 31, the date element of a date, okay? The element, okay, so select sysdate, round sysdate DD, meaning this function is being applied to this date value and it's following this format mask, okay? And this is just the alias. So let's see what it does. Okay, so today's date happens to be 18 July. If you look at the grid, if you look at the output, today's date is 18 July, but the rounded value is now 19 July, and it's because of this rule which I mentioned here. Let me just get it for a while again. Because of this rule, if the time is afternoon, meaning 12 p.m. and onwards, then it rounds off the date to the next date. So right now, the local time where I'm located is 1:31 p.m., which is afternoon. That's why the round function rounded off the date value of sys date, which is 18, to 19 July. Okay, that's what it means. All right, so that's the first example, which is rounding using the format DD, which is the numeric value of a date. Okay, second, we'll be looking at is this, rounding off to the month. But before that, the rule which is being followed by the round function for the month. So when we use the round function for the format mask of month, which could be month, those variants, then this rule is followed. If day is greater than 15 of the month, it rounds to the next month. Okay, so otherwise it will not round off to the next month. So in this case, the date today is 18. Okay, let me just run this so you will see. So again, select sysdate. Okay, I'll bring this down. Select sysdate. Again, it is the system date. And then here is derived value using the round function. So round sysdate, which is the date value, and then here's the format mask, which is which is the numeric value of month, which is 01 all the way to 12. Okay, so select sysdate, round sysdate and then as rounded from dual. Now let's look back, refer to this rule over here. If the day is greater than 15, that means 16 onwards up to 31, if applicable, then it rounds the month to the next month. Okay, so that's the case here. So if you look at the sys date, today's date is 18, which is greater than 15, as the rule says. Since it's greater than 15, it rounds off the month to the next month. So the July becomes August. Okay, so I hope you understand that. So we've seen so far two examples, one using the DD, which is for the numeric value of the date, as well as the which is the numeric value of the month from 01 to 12. Next, we'll be looking at rounding off using year as the format. Okay, so let's look at the year, the rule for year. If the month is greater than June, meaning July all the way to December, it rounds off the date value to the next year. Okay, let's look how it would behave when we use the round function on a year format. Okay, so again, I'll just comment this rule over here and refer to that after the execution of the select statement. So select sysdate, so you can get a reference later on. And here is the second expression, round sysdate, which is today's date, and the format is YYYY, which is the numeric value of the year. In the case now, we are in the year 2025, 2025. Okay, so today's date is 18 July 2025. Let's look at the rule. The rule is if the month is greater than June, which is July onwards to December, which is the case here because we're July, then this is true. It will round to the next year. So we can see the year value here is 2025. After the application of the round function, the output of the round function is 2026, which is it rounded off the year component of the date to 2026. Okay, so in this video we've learned about the round date function, which is a bit different from the round function used on numbers like integers. Okay, so different. This is about dates, and there are a couple of ways of specifying the format, but to give you a head start, to give you uh, a good intro. I'm just introducing the more frequently used ones, and if I will cover all the around 8 or 10 variations, it will just confuse us all. Okay, so we've seen and hopefully understood how the round function is being used on formats like DD for the date, for the month, and the YYYY for the year. Okay, thank you for watching and listening. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell and spread the word. I'll be seeing you in the next video.